this more now. I'm going to react to this now. Okay, guys, we're back to normal now. We're running back at full power now. We're back to normal. No more problem. And I haven't been seeing their channel for a while, so that's good. So here we go.
People sign up will get 20% off their premium subscription. This video is not about what the longest train is. I mean, like, it's not about the longest physical train. The reason this video is about this and not this is because the answer to this is quite boring. It's this one. It was 4.5 miles long. Great. Fascinating, right? Let's move on. If you've watched any of these videos, you know that you're not getting the answer to what the longest train journey is right off the bat because it's not that simple. There's different categories and criteria and little minutiae that I just need to explain. Namely, it's really, really hard to run a train super long distances. You see, here's a map. Every different color on this map represents a different track gauge in a different country. Much like different countries have different plug types and currencies and driving directions and measurement systems, the railroads of different countries have different widths of tracks. Previous testing has proven that trains don't work well off the track, so the trains of any given country only work in certain countries. This can create some difficulties. You'll notice on the map that Spain and Portugal have a different gauge than the rest of Europe. Finland does too, but that's just Finland being Finland. The supposed reason for Spain's different gauge, and this is not a joke, was so that the French couldn't invade by train. But nowadays, the Spanish might actually want to go to France, and up until recently, they couldn't. At least not by train, without changing trains. Spain built some high-speed lines in the standard gauge that France uses from the major cities to France. You can now take a direct train, for example, from Madrid and Barcelona to Paris, but in other areas on the...
What are these? Wait, are these real? Wait, these real scribbles? How do they come to real life? As a YouTuber, I made technology that works. Yeah, right.
On high-speed lines, you can't cross borders by train. If you want to take
Can
a
they
train
can?
from Biarritz to San Sebastian, for example, you're out of luck because the Spanish tracks are 9.17 inches wider than the French ones, so you have to take the train to Hendaye, walk all the way across this bridge, then catch the train from Irun. Or you could just take the bus. Now, you can actually switch the gauges of trains, but it's massively inconvenient. At best, it takes hours for a full-length passenger train. But some trains, like the legendary Trans-Siberian service from Moscow to Beijing, do exactly this. The train stops at the Mongolian-Chinese border for 4 hours while it's reconfigured for the thinner Chinese tracks. As it turns out, by doing this train is the third longest passenger service in the world, spanning 5,582 miles over 6 days. But just for some fun, let's do a rapid-fire round of the longest passenger train services by country. In the United States, it's a 65-hour, 2,700-mile trip from Chicago to Los Angeles. In the United Kingdom, it's the 13-hour, 720-mile trip from Aberdeen to Penzance. In Canada, it's the 86-hour, 2,770-mile trip from Toronto to Vancouver. In Australia, it's the 65-hour, 2,700-mile trip from Sydney to Perth. And finally, in India, it's the 80-hour, 2,660-mile trip from Kanyakumari to Dibrugarh. However, the world's second longest train service is, big surprise, also in Russia. It's also a Trans-Siberian service from Moscow to Vladivostok in 144 hours and 5,772 miles. But the longest train service goes to the least friendly Korea in the world, North Korea. You see, the longest train service in the world isn't really a full train. It's this train carriage. The North Korean State Railway runs this service from Pyongyang to Moscow by sending this sleeper car north to the border with Russia and then attaching it to the Russian train from Vladivostok to Moscow. This is technically a direct service since you never need a carriage for those 206 hours and 6,380 miles, which makes this definitively the longest passenger train service in the world. But of course, there's a reason I keep saying passenger because there are longer cargo services. China, in an effort to improve connectivity with the West, has started running cargo trains directly to Europe. And these aren't just for show. There's a legitimate place for cargo trains as a medium speed service between superfast cargo planes, which take about 12 hours to get to the UK, and cargo ships, which take 30 days to get to the UK. This 7,500-mile trip from Yiwu, China to London, England via the Channel Tunnel takes about 18 days to complete and can definitively be called the longest current direct train service in the world.
Okay.
If you're anything like me, however, that's still not enough time to learn calculus because it just seems like a bunch of nonsense numbers. That was, of course, until I tried Brilliant.org. Rather than just teaching you how to do calculus problems through memorization, they start by teaching intuitive ideas behind calculus.